I was saying last week when we were discussing what topic we should talk about, so I've given talks around mobile, smartphone, local language, and whatnot. I didn't want to go through the same thing again. Didn't want to talk about marketplaces, didn't want to talk about payments and whatnot. So I said we're going to talk about something like wild, robotics. And then NASSCOM said, are you sure? There's a bunch of startups are going to be there, a bunch of entrepreneurs are going to be there, a bunch of developers are going to be there. Do you really think this is the right topic to talk about and whatnot? And I said, no, this is the right topic because every time when we talk about something that's what we feel is that's something coming up in the next 2 to 3 years, not what's happening right now, but something that's going to come up really fast in the next 2 to 3 years. So it is the right topic to talk about. So initially I was going to come and surprise or stun the audience a little bit. I think for me Shiva did all that, so, so thank you. So I didn't have to do all of that. So what I'm going to talk about is that in many ways a continuation of what he talked about, right? In the sense that if you really look through history, computers have been there since 1940s, right? But the computers became widely adopted once it became consumerized, right? In the 80s when it became really usable for everybody, cheaper, scalable, a lot of applications and whatnot, right? Interconnected systems have been there since late 70s, right? But until it became consumerized and then can be deployed worldwide in a very cost-efficient, scalable manner, only then internet really formed, right? Similarly, mobile phones. If we take a look at mobile phones, in the 80s there has been a mobile phone. So we saw mobile phones in the 80s, and but until it became really consumerized to the point that everybody can have something in scalable fashion, it didn't really take off, right? So what I'm going to talk about is talk about what mobile technology has done and what some of the things that from the mobile that can be brought onto the robotics industry, and then why robotics as we know in the past. You know, robots have been there forever, right? And I think it's actually caught our imagination for a long time, right? So robots are not new, right? So, but what has happened in the mobile, and then how the application of some of these technologies into the robots going to fundamentally change it, and then what are the opportunities we have? I think that's what I'm going to connect. I think a lot of it Shiva did. So I'm just going to connect some of those things. So I think this is one thing that we need to revisit again and again. This is the largest technology platform ever, right? In terms of adoption, in terms of the scale, there is not a bigger platform, right? So we sell still billions of devices a year, and things change so quickly, right? The design cycle is getting shorter and shorter and shorter. Newer technologies get adapted into the phones very quickly, and the prices just keep going down and down and down, right? You can find an LTE phone for $50 now, right? And not only that, there is the biggest developer ecosystem. You have millions and millions of apps. You have millions and millions of layers of horizontalization that everybody can focus on one thing. And then everything that you want below or above is already there, so you can actually innovate on every layer, right? So this has fundamentally changed computing, connectivity, and all those things, right? So that's the given. That's today. That's not new. I don't have to convince anybody anymore. That's everybody understands that, right? Okay, now let's understand what's a robot, right? First, it has to have mobility, some sort of mobility, whether it is walking, flying, whatever it is, whether it's just one arm moving around, it needs mobility, right? Second thing is it needs to have a lot of sensing, right? It needs to understand what the environment is, where it is working on, you know, whether it is location, whether it is touch, whether it is vision, whether it is audio, it needs to have a lot of sensing, right? Then take those two things. Okay, I have the mobility, I can sense stuff, okay, and then I have to be able to make some autonomous decisions. So I need autonomy to go make some decisions, right? That's the third part. And then the fourth part is the intelligence, right? So it's not just that, but our real-time environment changes quite a bit, so be able to learn and then be intelligent about it, right? So fundamentally, that's a robot, right? So you can, anything that kind of fits into these four parameters, you can call it a robot, right? And robots are everywhere, right? So whether, I think the flying cameras are the ones that caught our imagination, drone feeds and capturing pictures in the last year, and then the delivery drones have been in the news as well. But then, you know, caregiver robots. Robots have been used for complex surgeries for quite some time as well, right? And then public safety, agriculture, manufacturing. So different types of robots are slowly getting integrated into our daily lives, right? So robots don't mean single thing anymore, right? It's basically a device that has these characteristics can be a robot now, right? Whether drones can be flying robots, and then a Roomba would be like more a cleaning robot and whatnot. And this is going to change industries. So let's be honest about it, right? I think there is nobody, we shouldn't start discussing that anymore, because fundamentally, if you look at transportation, everybody's talking about self-driving cars, right? That's really, a form of robotics as well, right? So, but when it's going to widely adopted, yeah, that's still not a given, but in transportation, it's fundamentally changing, right? Healthcare, some complex surgeries have been done, but it's more caregiver robots, and more are going to come, right? And then home, we have this cleaning robots, the Roombas of the world, but then more and more things in terms of intelligently monitoring, intelligently providing entertainment stuff and things like that. They're all happening, right? And then cities, whether it is public safety, need to have access on things that are not easily accessible, or whether it is manufacturing plants where you need to be able to have a quick view on things and then be able to act on it and whatnot. So all those industries are going to be transformed by robotics, right? Why hasn't happened so far? Because it's still an expensive solution where it's not easy to deploy, and we haven't seen the consumerization yet, right? So I think that's the reason why it has, the robots have been in existence for a while, but it really hasn't really widely been adopted, right? So what do you need, right? So let's just now come back slowly to the mobile part, right? So okay, so what do you need to build a good robot, right? It has to have a lot of computational power, right? Which means it needs to do a lot of things, understand what it's seeing or touching or feeling and whatnot, and then make sense of the inputs and then do complex stuff, right? It needs computational power. It needs to have machine vision, machine learning type of capabilities, and it needs to be connected so that it can either make some action or communicate to the right systems and whatnot, right? And then obviously there are different things. There is the industrial side of things, there's a home set of things, which the industrial things need probably a lot more ruggedness and whatnot, whereas the home thing needs to be a lot more ease of use and whatnot, right? So, but anyway, those are the building blocks, right? If you have these building blocks in a very cost-efficient manner, that's when you can probably start seeing the changes, right? Well, guess what? Many of those things are actually right now available in the phone, right? Whether it is in terms of sensors, the amount of sensors that are in the phones right now are getting closer to the number of sensors in a car. You have very complex wireless technologies that can communicate in different forms, different ways, and whatnot. You have graphics capabilities that are getting extremely, extremely powerful. You have processing capabilities that can do much complex things as well. And there are more complex audio stuff, right? So they're all already in there. So these things are already in there, and then these are getting scaled up very, very, very fast, right? And they're getting cheaper, they're getting better, and they're getting more reliable and powerful and whatnot, right? I think this is the connecting moment in my mind, right? So far, you have this mobile technology that's been growing up. You have billions of devices now every year, and it's becoming a powerful and more powerful computer, connected system, graphics capability system with video and audio capabilities, and also the camera part of it. All these are happening. And then for robotics to do well, some of the same characteristics need to be applied, right? So that's the connecting point. So I think finally one of the reasons why we are seeing faster things, and we haven't seen anything yet, actually, is that a lot of the technologies can be borrowed from what we are doing in the mobile and then applied to robotics. I talked I think about a year ago, and we used to, Qualcomm, we used to provide this about a year ago or a year and a half ago, saying that if you're building any device, or if you're building anything that requires computing or connectivity or graphics or camera, you have to start with the mobile architecture, because that's the fastest developing, cheapest, available, and it's scaling up really, really, really fast. If you don't do that, you're going to get disrupted very, very quickly, right? So now this is one application. Now, our point of view is that any device, whether it is a media device or entertainment device, anything going forward, if you're not starting with a mobile architecture, you're going to handicap yourself, right? So now let's take this one. You got to start with the mobile architecture. And we are seeing the emergence of mobile architecture into these platforms, which is going to create a consumerization, which is going to create the wider adoption. So there are different types. There's going to be platforms where people can build very quickly different types of robots. Different types of applications. You have a platform, and then say, okay, I have this. What happens? All right. So one is more of robotics platform. The second one will be the drones or the flying robots, which has the capability to provide that air lift and navigating and things like that. And then more rolling robot, which could be used for other things like caregivers and whatnot. Right? So now let's come to what Qualcomm is doing. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. So what we are doing is we have this Snapdragon Flight platform, which is actually putting everything together, all the stuff that is required together for you to go build a robo really quickly, right? I think this is announced, and then there's more things are coming from Qualcomm on this thing. But anyway, but I think fundamentally what you're seeing is that there's a quick platform based on mobile technology that can help you make a quick a robot really quickly. Before I go into this, so where is the opportunity? So I think one of the things is like, so what is the opportunity, right? Is it going to be like different companies building robots and whatnot? I think that's one part. I think different types of robots are going to come, and different types of platforms are going to come, or different types of IDs are going to come. That's for sure, right? But that's only the first part. I think of mobile phones maybe 15 years ago, right? I think a mobile manufacturer would do everything. They would do the hardware, they would build the basic operating system, they would do the basic apps as well and whatnot. It was completely a vertically integrated ecosystem, right? Some of the first generations of all these robots are right now that way. Everybody's vertically integrated. They do everything and whatnot, right? Which could be efficient down the line, but today it's not necessarily the most efficient, right? So what's going to happen is that there's going to be people who are going to do hardware. There are going to be people who are going to do interesting IDs, interesting hardware. But then there is going to be every layer of software that needs to be defined. Every layer of software, from stacks to applications, that needs to be defined, right? So if you think that mobile was a big platform for you to develop apps on for different verticals, whether it is finance or e-commerce and things like that, you're going to see the same thing now, robotics or as a platform that's going to emerge, where the hardware is one part. People are going to make hardware. But it's not just that alone. You're going to have opportunity to create applications, stacks, and things like that. And I mean, that is the big opportunity. And I think looking at India as an ecosystem, we're extremely good at software, complex software, software that has a lot of algorithms and complexities. I think we're very good at that. So I think I think there are definitely companies doing the hardware part as well, but I think for a wider audience here, for example, if you are a mobile developer today, you're doing interesting things and you're looking at, okay, 5 years down the line, where should I be actually focusing on my efforts? You better start here, because this as a platform is going to start to emerge, and then there is opportunity to build software stacks for this, right? So I'm just going to talk about a couple of things. I have still 7 minutes to go, but I want to talk about a couple of things. So one of the things that we have announced is that what's called a Qualcomm Innovation Labs Design Challenge. So basically, it's a thing for hardware startups. We invite ideas around hardware products. So a few companies will be selected, and they'll be provided actually mentoring. They'll be provided infrastructure, facilities to come and build that idea into a product. And then they'll be provided funding as well, and then they'll be provided access to investors, partners, people that can take them to commercial production and things like that. So we're partnering that with the NASSCOM. More details to follow, but this is a program designed primarily around hardware startups. And I think one of the focus is around this robotics, whether it is drones or whether it is different types of robots. One of the focus is around robotics. The other one, this is my daytime, full-time job, which is running Qualcomm Ventures. We announced a $150 million fund. We've been in the country since 2006, made our first investment in 2007. close to 25 companies now in our portfolio, invest across different sectors, hardware, software platforms, healthcare, education. We also invest very early in terms of seed. We have a program called Q-Prize. Traditional early stage tech as well, Series A, Series B as well. We announced a $150 million fund, basically to reiterate our commitment to the market, that we are very bullish about the ecosystem. Since we started investing in India, despite the cycles, we stayed invested, and we'll continue to stay invested, and we'll invest more. And we also feel that in the last 18 months, whatever the pace that we have seen, some of them might get rationalized, but we are going to be on a different pace altogether. We're going to be different level altogether. We're not going to go back to the 5 years ago, 10 years ago. So we are continuing to be bullish, and we'll be more active in the ecosystem. We'll probably invest in more companies. We'll probably invest larger checks as well. And one of the focus is around hardware startups. Not necessarily hardware alone, but hardware and hardware relevance, which is maybe drones, people doing complex software on drones, or trying to create platforms around drones or around robotics. Those are all our interests, in addition to IoT and the traditional areas as well. So those are the couple of things that we are doing to reiterate our focus around this area. Anyway, that's all I have. I think with that, I'll stop. And